Okay, we want to shift from education to the arts and entertainment. But I just want to reiterate that what I'm teaching is not a strategy for universal education, but a value set that Scripture gives us. So otherwise, God expects us as co-heirs of the kingdom, as co-rulers, which we already are. We don't become that when we die and go to heaven. We already are. We're His representatives here. To apply ourselves with His help to take our communities in the right direction, best we can. And what I mean by best we can is, since we're not in control, communities have to work with us. But we can know what our objective is. So if I ask you, is there anyone in heaven with no housing? And in finishing my book, I just wrote on this, and I kind of chuckled and thought, and I think it's free. But is there anyone in heaven without health care? And you might say, well, we don't need health care in heaven. Is there anyone in heaven who doesn't have anything to do? No, we know that wouldn't be true. So we can say what God's objective is for our society. We can't perfect it. We can't get there. But we can get closer, as Calvin did. Calvin transformed the world with a concept of the rights of a child. Does that mean every child has a perfect education? No, but all children worldwide have more education than they would have had without that concept. So what I'm really giving us is an objective. Parents need to be more involved in education. Education should be universal. You say, well, in our country, yes, exactly. So now we go back to our situation and say, okay, what's missing? And we begin to look, our community, our country, our region. We can only address a problem from where we are. We can't do anything where we're not. And we have a calling and a role and a level of influence and a gift set, and that's all fine. And we say, okay, Lord, is there anything I can do here? And the answer might be no. There's something you can do in some category, but you agree with God's values. So if we say one of God's values for governance is that power is closer to the bottom rather than closer to the top, we immediately know how to pray for Zimbabwe and how to pray for Egypt. We immediately know what the constant edgy danger is in Russia. We know the tension that's there in China. You know, I think if you look at China from a distance, it's moving in the right direction. It could always reverse. And so what do we pray? That it not reverse. And if there's something we can do towards that. But we agree with God's objective. Is health... Now, how can I say this? Let me say it simpler, because is water a right or is it a privilege? Is air a right or is it privilege? Well, you know the answer to that. You go, everyone has the right to the things God has made for us to have, okay? Let's take it a step farther. Is work a right or a privilege? God says we as a community have a responsibility to create a community where if you're willing to work, there's gainful employment. Not giveaway programs, not aid, not a soup kitchen. No sustainable development there. You do aid for people who will die if you don't help them. And that's appropriate. And as soon as they can do something for themselves, then you remove it. If you want to study that, you look at manna from God in the wilderness. The day they stepped over the border into the promised land, they had to become self-reliant. The manna dries up. But if he hadn't given them the manna in the wilderness, they would have been dead. But notice the manna. You can't collect it and store it and get a monopoly on banana. It's not banana, on manna. You can't start a manna store. You can't, it's direct delivery, 24/6, with 1 day leeway. And there's no middleman, and there's no way to profiteer off of it. Well, that's very, very smart for aid. Okay, so what do we want for families? We want families to be built on two empowered, strong individuals, preferably a man and a woman, as close as we can get to that. We want those families to have work and have housing, because the number one problem in the world with family destruction is financial or circumstantial in regards to where they live. We don't want it to be difficult for them to send their children to school. We want them to be able to afford that if there's a charge. Or we want to be providing that because we don't want any child left behind. Well, which one's God? Well, it doesn't matter as long as the kids go to school. Do you see that? Well, is health care a right or a privilege? Well, now I'm into current events, and it gets complicated, because immediately we don't debate whether God would provide health care for everyone. We debate a delivery system. Should the government pay for it, or should it be private? Well, you're debating two things that don't make any difference. You're debating a delivery system, not a value. And as long as we debate a delivery system, we will never resolve it, because neither one of them is perfect. They both have problems. They both have dilemmas. They both need creative solutions. And we know what happens when you make it public, and we know what happens when you keep it private. And our objective is to find a solution that doesn't fall into those two pitfalls. Maybe it hasn't been invented yet. Maybe all of us in the world that have any health care at all have done it in a less than godly way. Maybe there's a whole new way that nobody has thought of, because they're not asking God, how do we make sure every person of the millions in Nigeria has health care? How exciting is that? See, but we know the objective, and the destination is the first thing you have to know, and then you can administrate your trip. But you cannot administrate a journey before you know where you're going. Right? Okay, so family is key. Now, the other thing that is close to science, maybe everything is close to science. It certainly is. The material world is God's first revelation. Scriptures are second. So Galileo said God wrote two Bibles: the universe and the Scriptures. And that is so biblical. It's so Hebrew. Okay, so maybe we can start from the material world and go to all the domains. But regardless, one of the things that is very close to science is arts and entertainment, because everything that God has made is beautiful. Everything. Beauty is an attribute of God. Beauty doesn't have to be justified. Beauty doesn't have to be enhanced with a Jesus sticker. Beauty doesn't. Beauty is not an amount of money. Beauty is a set of aesthetic values, and those aesthetic values, whatever the discipline you're talking about, music, dance, sculpture, fashion, food, there is a set of laws that guide the beauty of that. And art is taking that set of laws and applying it in a way that no one's ever seen before. So there is the unity and the diversity. And God integrated beauty into everything he made. So, you know, I studied art when I was in university, and there were a lot of strong feelings about abstract art. And there are still strong feelings among some Christians, and he'll say, well, I could have painted that. Yeah, but you didn't. And I'm not sure you could have. Or I don't know what that is. That's not art. And it sounded really, you know, something, intelligent or practical or spiritual, of which it was none of those things. But we're a little less cocky about all of that now, because we have this molecular view of the world. So you look at the world in a small, you know, smaller, and it's gorgeous. And it's abstract. In the sense that, unless you're a scientist or you've been told, you don't know what you're looking at. But you don't go, I don't know what that is. You look at it and you go, oh. And lo and behold, as the Hubble telescope takes us farther and farther out, the macro, the cosmos is gorgeous. I mean, dying stars are a thing of beauty to behold. You know, the planets and the colors and the design and the movement of them. I mean, it's all there. This is so true that I told you the other day, all of matter makes sound. Everything is oscillating. Everything is vibrating. We just can't hear it. In David's day, he spends a lot of time contemplating the stars. And he talks about being able to hear them sing. Now, maybe that's allegorical, or maybe it's true. Maybe as the fall of the creation has taken its toll on the planet, maybe we're less able to hear now than we used to be able to. But regardless, what we know is the planets in our galaxy oscillate on a perfect harmonic chord. So otherwise, their vibrations each provide one note of a perfect harmonic chord, except one's missing. And we are missing one planet. That's what all the asteroids are that we're constantly afraid are going to come hit us. So our perfect harmonic chord of our galaxy has a little dissonance to it. It's a little off. It's kind of there's a note missing, which is exactly true. See, because everything is infiltrated with everything that is of God, and everything is infiltrated with beauty. You say, well, which part? All parts. Light, design, form, color, rhythm, dissonance, balance. It's all there. See, you can't live without rhythm. We used to, you know, back in the 70s, I had some rather famous friends who were not famous then, who used to preach on how rhythm was of the devil. And you could tell when you listened to music from certain parts of the world. Well, they no longer teach that, but it was popular then. See, but you can't even live without rhythm. You know, that's why you have to get a pacemaker when your heart's lost its rhythm. Rhythm is part of everything that God created. Of course we love it. Of course we have to resonate with it and create it. And you can't live without tension and balance. You can't walk without it. So life, physical movement, the cosmos is built on a system of balance, tension, balance, tension. Okay? It's built on sound. The universe sings. It harmonizes. I know it sounds really, what's the name of that? New Age. But then, you know, they got something right. The stars sing. David said the same thing. The universe sings. There is a perfect harmony in God. Color is a manifestation of light. I mean, how beautiful is that? No appreciation for color means you absolutely don't understand light. And light is one of the symbols that God uses for himself. See, flavor, taste, the senses, the eyes, the ears, the palate. I had to cancel this engagement from, I think it was in April I was supposed to be coming, because I got shingles, and I had it on my face, and it was this nerve that comes around here and up below the eye, not the optical, but, and so I still don't have all the flavor back on this side of my tongue and palate. And it's better now because I can taste whether my coffee's good or not. But it's not sharp yet. And it's just so boring. You know, dissatisfying somehow to only have half your tongue that can taste anything, or half your palate. And those things are created so unbelievably sensitive. You know, touch. Miles and miles and miles of skin, you know, all that wants to be touched and wants to be stimulated. And it's part of who we are, all of these senses and their interconnectedness. And that's the way God has made us. It's a good thing. Okay, so you know, in music you have the laws of harmony, dissonance, rhythm, other things. In design you have space, you have, now I'm going to forget all of my art. I'll go back to sculpture, maybe it'll come to me. In sculpture, you have positive and negative space, you have tension, you have weight and balance. I'm sure there are laws to fashion and what it makes the body look like that I don't know anything about. For years, I never mentioned fashion, one of the great artistic expressions of this century, and more important all the time. Film, visual and sound put together. Every form of entertainment has these aesthetic values. And I put sports in there. Because what sports is all of the aesthetic values of dance with a different objective. So there's nothing more beautiful than slowing down the film of a great sportsman or sportswoman and putting it to music, because they are dancing. They are doing unbelievable things with their body. But the objective's different. But it's still art. It's still built on a set of values. It's still a learned skill where you have to transcend the laws and the skills to do something that is no longer cognitive. Does that make any sense to you? I can exemplify it for you. I'm going to use basketball because I've forgotten all the other sports I might have known, and I haven't learned any new ones. And most people at least understand basketball. Okay, so what is beauty? What is art in the end? Okay, let me try to exemplify that with sport. We know Michael Jordan, the big tall guy that was such a great basketball player. It's already history, but I don't know any new basketball players, so I have to use Michael. Okay, all kids that play basketball or who play football, soccer, if you're an American, practice, 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 practice a skill set. In basketball, it's dribble, 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 shoot, dribble, shoot, dribble, shoot, dribble, run, stop, guard, catch, run to the other end, defend, run, stop, guard, defend, run, stop, guard, defend, run, stop, guard, defend, shoot, shoot, dribble, 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 dribble. And you learn all of these skills. And kids who love the sport, you watch them, they're standing in the middle of the street going, or they got a soccer ball. And wherever they go, sometimes they put the soccer ball or the football in a net, and they're on the bus, and they're going, and they're practicing a skill set that is the same wherever that game is played. But mastering that skill set doesn't make them able to play the game. So they may be the best shooter or the best kicker in the whole world, but that doesn't mean they can play football or basketball. So part of their skills training then, okay, we've done the skills, and the skills are same for everybody. Okay, we've built the muscles, we've built the mind, hand, foot coordination. Now we have to play. And you take those very basic skills and you put them into what physicists would call chaos. Okay, you put all these people on the playing field or on the floor of the basketball court, and you say, now do that with a guy coming at you. Do that when two people are coming behind you. Do that when you're going backwards from where you need to be going. And there's a whole nother set of variables that don't follow any laws that you have to learn to play the game. It's kind of like creation: chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order. Okay, so now you play the game. You got the rudiments down. You're in 14-year-old play, or you're in 19-year-old play, but you're still not professional. And all you have to do is go out there on the field with those people for 5 minutes, and it's obvious. I can remember once going to an ice skating competition. It wasn't the Olympics, but it was an international event. And so you saw all of the schools, all of the different teams that tried out, so you got the 10th group of 4, and they're not very good at all, and but they're all international professionals. And then the next group, and the next group, and the next group, and in all of those groups, up to the last group of 4, everybody fell down once during their routine. Beautiful routines, more or less wonderful, certainly beyond my imagination. But then you got to group 4, the last group of 4. Nobody fell down. And my gosh, what they did was inhuman. And you'd been watching the world's best all night long, but there was no comparison. And you think, they all studied the same thing, they all went through the same routine, they all have expertise, they're all professionals. They might have a good night or a bad night, but it isn't just that. There's something about what these are able to do in that moment in time, and in the next competition, they may not have it. And it's that, whatever that is, that we connect to that makes it entertaining. Whether it's theater or music or poetry or football or ballet, when we see that, experience that, we go, ha! See, or if it's football, we go, ha! I can remember watching the Bolshoi Ballet, and I lived in Egypt for many years, and the Bolshoi came and they performed Holst Planets. They had done a ballet to Holst Planets. And at one point, this person apparently flies out of the stage sides, halfway across the stage, lands on one foot and does it again to the other side of the stage. And when I watched it, I thought, that is not human. You can't do that. And everything in me was just captivated, which is what we're looking for out of entertainment. Something that, what is that? Something that makes us feel better. Now it goes past that. Eating makes us feel better, and sometimes you have that meal, but then the rest is eating. Huh? What is that? Well, I think I can tell you, because I've spent years asking, and it's all there in Scripture. You know, if you study music in Scripture, there's a set of things that the music is used to try to express. One is national pride. One is relationship with God, and the other is love. Now, go listen to music. You will find it either protest music or patriotic music. You'll find it something about God or gods, or you'll find it about human love. Why? Because those are things that need expression that goes beyond other forms. And it is the theme of literature and poetry. Perhaps love is the core of the universe. Perhaps it's the... No, but we're getting cosmic there. Okay, so what is that? Well, we are soul, body, mind, and spirit. And all my life I've heard various teachings about the soul. I never understood most of them. I even looked at it in the university, and I understood what they were saying. I didn't think they said anything. And as a Christian, you know, we don't get into the soul very much because it's a little iffy. We get it. The spirit's okay. We're not even in charismatic move too into the mind, because that could get too brainiac and, you know, not be about God. But the fact is, we are body, mind, soul, and spirit. And in us, those things don't get along very well. We're a little bit crippled. So we are either in the spirit, or thinking, or using our body, or pleasuring ourselves. Okay? Maybe we're pleasuring ourselves in a bad way, maybe we're pleasuring ourselves in a good way. But we are all doing that, but we have a tendency to do it. So, you know, I don't need this, I need to do this. Because there's a part of us that's, the cup is empty. It's getting too low. Okay? Stick with me. I may have something to say here. Spirit, in the biblical sense, is about other. Being spirit-led is not being aware of the Spirit of God. It's being aware of our neighbor. Spirit is never about me. It's about other. Oh dear, we're going to have to do some rethinking, but we don't have time to do that today. Soul is about me. I need. Now, what we do a lot today within the church is we confuse soul and spirit. We go to get the spirit to do something for us. That's soul, and there's nothing wrong with feeding your soul. There's something definitely wrong about not feeding it. There's nothing wrong from energizing and activating your spirit and engaging with God and engaging with others. There's nothing wrong with physical exercise. There's nothing wrong with thought. They are all dimensions of God. But it's so unsatisfying to us because it's like this teaching. People say to me, oh my gosh, how am I going to remember all this? You know, and I said, well, you're still like you're just practicing basketball. It's like dribble, 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 government, justice, 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 family, love, family, love, family, love. Science, science. And it's so hard to think about it all because it isn't yours. It's not part of you yet. It's an idea about God that's coming to you, and you go, I like all of this, but I have no idea what to do with it. And so much of our life is about, okay, I have to be loving now. Okay, God, help me love. Okay, I have to be thoughtful now. Okay, God, help me think about this. I should feel something. God, help me feel. And we're a little bit, I guess, schizophrenic. Okay, so here's what I think we all love about the arts and entertainment. Here's what I think happens when we see that. And we go, and it can be beauty of any kind. Okay? When Michael Jordan dribbles, 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 plays, 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 he's mastered the order and the chaos. He's mastered it. He can deal with either one. But all professional basketball players have. Okay? But Michael Jordan goes beyond that. Okay, so when he's running down the basketball court, this all happens in seconds. He's running down the basketball court. He's not looking at the ball. He's not thinking about dribbling. He's not watching his feet. He's not thinking about running. He is actually looking at the net. And he gets that sized up, and before he gets to the net to make the shot, he's actually forgotten about all that and is halfway turned around to looking down the court because he's thinking about where he's going and whether he can get the ball on the way out and down the other end. And in those seconds, he dribbles, he connects, he's now not connected with that at all visually. He shoots, he lands doing a 180. He lands running in the opposite direction. He only takes 1 or 2 steps before he's turned around, ready to catch the ball at the other end. And when you see it, you go, my gosh, that's not human. And everybody explodes. Oh! So I was trying to help you guys that like sports but don't like ballet. You don't necessarily explode at ballet, but I heard Sarah Chang play Sibelius's violin concerto live in Cape Town a few weeks ago. And I was sitting next to a little quiet man who never moved or said a thing, but at one point, and I understood, he went, it was too magnificent. And this silent, quiet, timid man had to. Because in those moments, that person is not mind, body, soul, and spirit. They are integrated. They are mind, body, soul, and spirit. They are not thinking. They are the music. They are not the laws. They are not the chaos. They are not mind or body. They are all of those things perfectly harmonized into one thing, and that's what God is like. And when we see it, we have a vision of what we could be. We just have a, and it resonates with us. Because it goes beyond anything we've been able to experience. Very often, if ever. Okay? But we live in a fallen world. And we're still trying to become more like God. But you see, God is not struggling. Ooh, I need to think right. Ooh, I need to act right. Ooh, I need my spirit to be right. Ooh, my soul, my cup needs to be filled up. God is never going, okay, I have to be scientific now. Ooh, now it's about beauty. Oh dear, now I need to think about political justice. He is not dichotomized. This is a human problem because we're fallen, because our world is fallen. But it's not our destiny. Our destiny is to be able to flow in that with all of those things functioning 24/7 without any awareness. No self-awareness. Can you imagine how wonderful that would be? Amen. Aware of everything, but not really concerned about self. Wow. And so literally when we touch this kind of beauty, whatever the form, we worship. We don't know it's worship, but that's what it is, which is why the arts and anything touching on the entertainment field can so quickly draw people into really weird stuff. Because to be integrated, you have to be abandoned. You have to not be in control. You have to be. Okay, well, you know, abandonment has to be to something. So when they don't know God, when we don't know God and we abandon ourselves, the enemy will step in and give us some form that we like to worship. And we might abandon ourselves to the art. We might abandon ourselves to our own performance. We might abandon ourselves to the demonic. We can abandon ourselves to all sorts of things. The enemy doesn't care as long as we don't abandon ourselves to God. All idols acceptable. Okay, and so those who enter into that, if they don't realize they are worshiping. Now, you don't have to stay away from it to worship. When I heard her play the Sarah Chang, I said, God, that is so amazing. Because he's the creativity behind her. He's the one that created those notes. He's the one that gave her, a human being, the ability to train and to master that skill. He is the author of the music. He is the author of the color. He is the author of the tension and the balance. He is the author of all of it. And so you can worship him not because it's a Jesus play. You can worship him also if it's a Jesus play. But it doesn't have to have a Jesus sticker on it for you to go, God, that's so amazing. You don't have to hear a piece of music and say, did a Christian write that? You don't have to look at architecture and go, did a Christian build that? It doesn't make any difference who wrote it, who filmed it, who built it. What matters is it was the image of God in them and the inspiration of God that allowed them to do it. And you worship the God behind the artist, even if he doesn't know him. See, now I got to come back to the Christian arts and entertainment, and I got to go, I have a nightmare. I have a nightmare. I've been around 42 years in missions now. That's longer than some of you have lived, but we won't go there. But I've been through a lot of Christian music. And it's so mediocre. Well meant, good hearts. Often not very skilled musically. Really should practice more. Often not very skilled in composition, but good hearts. So we're not talking about the heart here. We're talking about, I don't want you to pray and get a download from the Holy Spirit on how to perform brain surgery. That's taking this too far. I want you to go to university and study medicine and practice on other cadavers and things, and then be a spirit-filled brain surgeon. Are you with me? And you don't get a download of talent and skill. The Spirit may be present and you may have a wonderful heart. This is still awful music. And there is nothing godly about going, isn't that wonderful? No, it's terrible. But my gosh, it was well meant, wasn't it? But we get the idea that if it's for God, then it must be beautiful no matter how awful it is. But it isn't. It's just well meant. Okay, so, 500 years ago, we produced some of the greatest music, we being Christians, some of the greatest art, some of the greatest architecture that the world has ever known. And in such a short period of time, where did it go? Well, it went out the window with split thinking. Because none of it's important anymore. The only thing that's important is I have a good heart and a guitar. Well, that isn't the only thing that's important to God, although he loves a good heart and a guitar. But, he loves good design for architecture better than bad design. And because you're a Christian architect doesn't mean you're any good. You can be a lovely disciple who loves God with your whole heart, but you just don't have the skill set. Or you don't have the talent, bless your heart. You have a talent for something, but it isn't that. And God would tell you that. We don't have to go around pretending because we wear a cross that then everything is wonderful. We can be discerning. We can view things as God does. We can say Freddie Mercury had issues, but the guy was a musical genius. Maybe Mozart had some issues too, but the guy was a musical genius. And yeah, I think these lyrics have got to go, but this is, this music, this art. This sound, this dance, but we've abandoned the field, see, because we tell ourselves that this is all secular, this is all worldly, or where the demonic are trying to take us away from God. Well, that is what's there. Why? Because we have abandoned the field and left it dark. There is no light unless we're there. So the problem with the arts, with film, with literature, with dance is Christian apathy, which comes out of Christian ignorance, which has not always been there. And so it's time for us to come out of that box. It's time for us to rediscover that God, the God of beauty, who hates ugliness, because it says, it doesn't matter. And God says, everything